Hello to all our followers and welcome to this new episode of 5 Minutes. Today we will talk about COVID-19 when things are not going according to plan with our guest, Dr Neil Pyper, Senior Lecturer of International Business at Birkbeck University of London. Neil, welcome to 5 Minutes. We are very delighted to have you here with us.
Thank you. It's great to be talking to you.
Thank you, Neil. Neil, in a recent article, you mentioned that COVID-19 is an example of black swan event. What do you mean?
So a black swan event is a high impact event which is unimaginable before it happens. Very often after a black swan event happens, it's really easy to explain why it happened, but before it happens, it's kind of inconceivable. And there's been a lot of commentary, especially from government people, about how no one could see the COVID pandemic coming and how it was impossible to plan for. And certainly you can see that they believe that that was the case in the response to COVID from a number of countries. The thing with COVID, though, is that a lot of people had actually been talking about how some sort of pandemic of a new strain of flu was inevitable, and it was a question of when rather than if.
Okay, thank you. So what did go wrong in the strategy of the policy decision makers, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I think, as I said, the thing about a pandemic of a new strain of flu is that it was a question of when rather than if. So for many years, I was a political risk analyst. And I used to write and publish pieces about the need to plan for this. Barack Obama very famously talked about this. It's a clip that's now kind of gone viral. The thing is, though, that this sort of pandemic of a novel strain of flu hadn't actually happened since 1918, 1919. So it hadn't happened within living memory. And also there had been a number of scares. So during the 2000s, there was the H5N1 avian flu scare. Then there was the H1N1 outbreak in North America, which was successfully contained. There was the SARS outbreak, which was a serious issue in East Asia, but didn't spread beyond East Asia on a catastrophic scale. So essentially, because there hadn't been a major flu pandemic within people's living memory, and because of other priorities in terms of government spending and resources, the ball was dropped on preparing for a novel flu pandemic. Why
some countries, in your opinion, like in Southeast Asia, seem to face this pandemic better than others, including Western democracy?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of issues here. I think there's recognizing that they were dealing with something serious at an early stage. And it's important to remember that in the case of East Asia, there was the SARS outbreak in the early 2000s. So that was within living memory. That was where the H5N1 avian flu outbreak or scare was concentrated. And so they were policymakers in that part of the world arguably were more attuned to the idea that there was the risk of this novel flu strain. The other thing that I think is important is the degree to which governments are able to control and in particular restrict the behavior of citizens. And in countries where, for a number of reasons, people either accept or have no choice but to accept restrictions on personal behavior, again, it was easier to control the outbreak of control the spread of the pandemic once the initial outbreak happened.
Thank you. And any lesson we can take from the COVID-19 pandemic in your opinion?
To me, there are two big lessons. The first is that these sort of low probability, high impact events can happen and do happen It's futile to try to predict what the next such event will be, but it's going to happen, and you have to be able to respond quickly when it does happen. People were talking, as I said, about the risk of an outbreak and a pandemic of a new strain of flu. Essentially, governments needed to be ready to respond to that, even though it might not happen. And the Obama administration in the US took steps in that direction, which were then rolled back by the Trump administration when it came in 2016. So that's one thing. The other thing, and this goes as much for business strategy as it does for government actions, is sort of strategic agility. So recognizing that things aren't going to plan and acting quickly. And the countries that acted quickly and decisively, almost invariably, were the ones that managed to contain the pandemic effectively.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Neil, for this inspiring discussion. We wish you all the best, and we hope to see you here again at 5 minutes.
Thank you.